Captain Jake Morrison stood on the bridge of the USS Defiance, watching the stars through the main viewing screen. The ship had been traveling through deep space for 3 weeks now, collecting samples and mapping new star systems. It was supposed to be a quiet mission, the kind that let his crew of 200 get some rest between the more dangerous assignments. Lisa Burke worked at her station, running routine scans of nearby space. As the tactical officer, she kept watch for any signs of trouble, but so far this sector had been empty. The sensors showed nothing but distant stars and floating rocks. Chief Engineer Ryan Walsh called up from the engine room to report that all systems were running perfectly. Jake liked these peaceful missions. His crew could focus on science instead of fighting. Dr. Elena Rodriguez had already discovered 2 new types of space minerals, and the communications officer Kate Phillips had mapped several unexplored star systems. The USS Defiance looked like any other research ship, with its simple design and basic equipment visible on all the outer hull scans. That morning started like any other. Jake was reading reports in his ready room when the alarm sounded. He rushed to the bridge where Lisa was staring at her screen with wide eyes. She looked up at him and said 12 large ships had just appeared on sensors coming straight toward them. Jake took his place in the captain's chair and studied the tactical display. The unknown ships were massive, each one 3 times the size of the Defiance. Their hulls were dark metal with strange markings, and they moved in perfect formation. These were clearly warships, not exploration vessels. "They're hailing us," Kate said from her station. Jake nodded and told her to put it on screen. The viewing screen changed to show an alien face that made several crew members step backward. The creature had gray skin, yellow eyes, and sharp teeth. When it spoke, the universal translator made its voice sound cold and harsh. "I am Admiral Vextar of the Korthak Empire," the alien said. "You will surrender your vessel immediately. Resistance will result in your destruction." Jake made sure his face showed fear and confusion. He had trained for this moment many times, but now he had to make his acting look real. He stood up slowly and spoke in a shaking voice. "This is Captain Morrison of the Earthship Defiance. We're just scientists on a research mission. We don't want any trouble." Admiral Vextar made a sound that might have been laughter. "Humans. We have been watching your pathetic species for months. Your technology is primitive and your people are weak. You will make excellent slaves for the Empire." Jake let his shoulders sag as if the words had crushed his spirit. Around the bridge, his crew played their parts perfectly. Lisa made her hands shake as she worked at her station. Ryan called up from engineering with a voice full of panic, asking what was happening. Kate pretended to have trouble with the communications equipment. The alien ships surrounded the Defiance in a perfect circle. Jake could see their weapons pointed at his ship from every direction. The Korthak had done their homework, bringing enough firepower to destroy 100 ships like his. What they didn't know was that the Defiance was not what it seemed. "You have one of your Earth hours to prepare for boarding," Admiral Vextar said. "Any attempt to escape or fight back will be met with immediate destruction. Your ship will become part of the Korthak fleet and your crew will serve the Empire." Jake nodded quickly, trying to look terrified. "Yes, sir, we understand. Please don't hurt my people. We'll do whatever you want." The alien's yellow eyes seemed to glow with satisfaction. "Smart human. Perhaps you will live longer than the others." The screen went dark, leaving the bridge in silence. As soon as the communication ended, Jake's whole manner changed. His voice became calm and steady as he activated Protocol 7 with his command codes. All around the ship, hidden systems began to wake up. The crew moved with practiced efficiency, no longer pretending to be afraid. Lisa's fingers danced over her tactical controls, bringing weapon systems online without letting them show on external sensors. The simple-looking hull panels were actually advanced armor plating that could stop almost any attack. Hidden inside what looked like research equipment were some of the most powerful weapons Earth had ever built. Ryan worked in the engine room to reroute power from the fake science systems to the real military hardware. The Defiance had been built to look like a research vessel, but underneath the disguise it was one of the most advanced warships in the human fleet. Every bolt and wire had been designed to fool enemy sensors. Kate began sending coded messages through hidden communication arrays. The signals looked like normal research data, but they carried urgent military intelligence to every human outpost in the sector. Soon Admiral Hayes would know that first contact had been made, and it was not friendly. Dr. Rodriguez continued her scans, but now she was studying Korthak technology instead of space rocks. Her sensors probed their ships carefully, looking for weaknesses in their shields and armor. The aliens had made the mistake of getting close, and now she could map every system on their vessels. Jake walked around his bridge, checking on each station. His crew had trained for years to make this deception work. Every human ship carried the same disguise protocols, designed to make them look weak and helpless to any alien force. The plan was simple: let the enemy think they had won, then show them how wrong they were. Through the main screen, Jake could see the Korthak ships holding position around his vessel. Admiral Vextar probably thought this was the easiest conquest in Empire history. A single human ship with primitive weapons and scared crew members. The alien commander had no idea what was really waiting for him. Time passed slowly as the crew made their preparations. To outside sensors, it looked like frightened humans getting ready to surrender. In reality, the USS Defiance was transforming from a research vessel into a weapon of war. Hidden panels would soon slide away to reveal gun ports. Fake equipment would fold back to expose missile launchers. The ship's true nature would be revealed when the time was right. Jake smiled as he thought about the surprise waiting for Admiral Vextar. The Korthak had studied human colonies and research stations, but they had never seen what humans could do when they were ready for war. Today would be their first lesson in why it was dangerous to underestimate the species from Earth. The hour was almost up, and Jake could feel the tension building on his bridge. Soon the pretending would end and the real fight would begin. Kate Phillips worked quickly at her communication station, her fingers moving over controls that looked like simple research equipment to any outside observer. The hidden transmitters built into the USS Defiance were already sending coded messages across the sector, disguised as routine scientific data broadcasts. To the Korthak ships monitoring their communications, it seemed like the humans were just recording their final research notes before surrender. The real message was traveling through a network of secret relay stations that the aliens knew nothing about. Each station received the coded transmission and sent it further into human space, where Admiral Richard Hayes commanded the Third Fleet from his flagship USS Retribution. The message was simple but urgent: first contact with hostile aliens. Immediate military response required. Jake Morrison maintained his act of fearful cooperation while watching the countdown timer on his personal display. 43 minutes remained before the Korthak deadline, but he needed at least 2 hours for the human fleet to arrive. That meant keeping Admiral Vextar busy and distracted while his crew prepared for the real battle ahead. Dr. Elena Rodriguez used her science sensors to study the 12 alien warships surrounding them. Her equipment was actually far more advanced than it appeared, capable of penetrating most enemy shields and analyzing their technology. She discovered that Korthak shields operated on rotating frequencies that changed every few minutes, but followed a predictable pattern that could be exploited. The alien weapon systems showed interesting weaknesses too. Their plasma cannons needed long cooling periods between shots, and their targeting systems seemed to rely on simple lock-on technology. Elena smiled as she realized that human ships with their advanced maneuvering systems could probably dance around these weapons with ease. Ryan Walsh called up from the engine room with fake panic in his voice, loud enough for any listening devices to hear. He reported that the ship's systems were failing under stress and that they might lose life support soon. In reality, he was carefully rerouting power from the disguised research equipment to the hidden weapon systems and defensive shields. The Defiance had been built with dual systems for everything. The outer hull showed simple research labs and basic equipment, but underneath were military-grade fusion reactors, quantum computer cores, and enough firepower to match a small fleet. Every human exploration ship carried the same deception, making the entire species appear far weaker than they really were. Admiral Vextar appeared on the main screen again, his yellow eyes gleaming with satisfaction. "Human Captain, your time grows short. My boarding parties are prepared to take control of your primitive vessel. Do not resist and your death will be quick." Jake made sure his voice shook with terror. "Please, sir, we need more time. Our computer systems are very old and slow. It's taking longer than expected to prepare the crew for transport. Maybe another hour." The alien commander made that harsh laughing sound again. "You pathetic creatures cannot even operate your own technology properly. Very well, you have 30 more minutes. Use this time to say goodbye to your miserable lives." As soon as the communication ended, Jake activated another hidden protocol. Emergency beacons throughout the ship began transmitting detailed tactical information about the Korthak fleet composition, weapon types, and shield frequencies. This data would be invaluable when the human reinforcements arrived. Lisa Burke worked at her tactical station, slowly bringing weapon systems online without triggering any external sensors. The ship's quantum torpedoes were warming up in their hidden launchers, and the directed energy cannons were almost ready to deploy. Her screen showed targeting solutions for all 12 enemy ships, with priority given to their command vessel. 300 light-years away, Admiral Hayes received the coded transmission aboard the USS Retribution. The massive battleship immediately changed course, followed by 11 other heavy warships of the Third Fleet. Each ship began charging their jump drives for an emergency hyperspace transit that would bring them to the Defiance within 2 hours, Captain. Alex Turner commanded the experimental dreadnought USS Vengeance, the largest and most powerful ship in the human fleet. When he received Admiral Hayes' orders, he smiled grimly and ordered his crew to battle stations. The Vengeance had been designed specifically to fight unknown alien threats, and today would be its first real test. Back on the Defiance, the crew continued their careful preparations while maintaining the illusion of helpless surrender. Kate had established communication links with every human outpost in the sector, creating a real-time intelligence network that would track any Korthak reinforcements. So far, the alien ship seemed to be operating alone. Elena finished her analysis of the enemy fleet and sent her findings to Lisa's tactical station. The Korthak ships were impressive but built with older technology concepts. Their hulls were thick, but used simple metals instead of the advanced composites that human ships employed. Their shields were powerful but inflexible, unable to adapt to new types of weapons. Most importantly, the aliens seemed to have no experience fighting enemies with advanced stealth capabilities. Their sensors were designed to track large, obvious targets, not ships that could hide their true nature until the moment of attack. The humans had spent decades perfecting the art of appearing weak while secretly preparing for war. Jake watched the tactical display as more coded transmissions arrived from across human space. The Second Fleet was moving to secure the border systems, while the Fourth Fleet prepared to defend Earth itself. If the Korthak had more ships coming, humanity would be ready for them. Admiral Vextar's voice crackled over the communication system again. "Human vessel, you now have 15 minutes remaining. My patience grows thin with your delays and excuses. Prepare to be boarded or face immediate destruction." Jake responded with even more fear in his voice. "Yes, sir, we're almost ready. Our crew is very scared, but we're following your orders. Please don't hurt us." The alien commander seemed pleased by this display of terror. He had no idea that the frightened humans were actually elite military personnel who had trained for years to fight against superior numbers. Every person on the Defiance was a veteran of the border wars, chosen specifically for their ability to remain calm under pressure. 28 minutes until the human fleet arrived. Jake looked around his bridge at the crew members who were about to change the course of galactic history. Today, the galaxy would learn that humanity was far more dangerous than anyone had imagined. The countdown timer on Jake Morrison's personal display showed 0. The Korthak deadline had arrived, and Admiral Vextar's patience had finally run out. Jake could see the alien boarding ships moving away from their motherships, heading straight for the USS Defiance. It was time to drop the act and show these invaders what humans were really capable of. Jake stood up from his captain's chair and his entire manner changed. The fear and confusion disappeared from his face, replaced by the cold determination of a seasoned military commander. He looked around his bridge at crew members who were no longer pretending to be terrified scientists. Each person sat straighter at their stations, ready for the battle they had been training for their entire careers. "Protocol 7 is now complete," Jake announced to his crew. "All systems are green and ready for combat operations. Lisa, bring us to full military status." Lisa Burke's fingers moved across her tactical console with practiced speed. Hidden panels all over the ship's hull began to slide open, revealing weapon ports that had been completely invisible to enemy sensors. The simple-looking research equipment folded away to expose missile launchers, railguns, and energy weapons that made the Korthak technology look primitive by comparison. The USS Defiance transformed before the aliens' eyes. What had appeared to be a harmless exploration vessel was suddenly bristling with enough firepower to destroy half their fleet. Advanced armor plating emerged from concealed compartments, covering the ship in protective layers that could withstand direct hits from the most powerful weapons. Admiral Vextar watched this transformation from his command ship with growing horror. His yellow eyes widened as sensor readings showed the true capabilities of the human vessel. The energy signatures were off the charts, indicating weapons and shields far beyond anything his intelligence reports had suggested possible. Impossible, the alien commander whispered to his bridge crew. Our scouts surveyed their colonies for months. These humans have no military technology. They are a primitive species barely capable of spaceflight. Commander Zorath, Vextar's second-in-command, stared at his tactical display in shock. Admiral, the human ship is showing power levels equal to 3 of our heavy cruisers. Their weapon systems are completely unknown to our databases. On the Defiance, Ryan Walsh completed the final power transfer from the fake research systems to the real military hardware. The ship's fusion reactors were now running at full capacity, feeding enormous amounts of energy to weapons that had been designed to fight enemies far more advanced than the Korthak Empire. Dr. Elena Rodriguez smiled as she watched her sensor readings. The alien ships were exactly where her calculations had predicted they would be, perfectly positioned for the surprise attack she had been planning. Their shields were operating on the predictable frequency pattern she had discovered, making them vulnerable to the specific types of weapons the Defiance carried. Jake opened a communication channel to the Korthak fleet, but now his voice carried the authority of someone who had commanded warships in dozens of battles. Admiral Vexitar, this is Captain Morrison of the Human Defense Force. You have made a serious mistake today. The alien commander's face appeared on the main screen, his confident expression replaced by confusion and growing fear. What is the meaning of this deception, human? You are scientists, not warriors. Jake allowed himself a small smile. We are whatever we need to be. Your intelligence about my species is dangerously incomplete. The colonies you observed were exactly that, colonies. You never encountered our military forces because we didn't want you to. Commander Zorath panicked at this revelation and shouted orders to his weapons crews. The Korthak ships opened fire immediately, sending volleys of plasma bolts toward the Defiance. The bright energy beams struck the human ship's newly activated shields and dispersed harmlessly, causing no damage at all. Lisa Burke had been waiting for this moment. Returning fire, she announced calmly and pressed the activation controls for the ship's main weapons. Quantum torpedoes launched from hidden tubes, crossing the distance to their targets in seconds. The first torpedo struck a Korthak destroyer and completely vaporized its forward section. The directed energy cannons fired next, sending focused beams of pure energy that cut through alien armor like paper. 2 more Korthak ships took critical damage as their hulls were sliced open by weapons they had no defense against. Emergency alarms began sounding throughout the alien fleet as commanders realized they were facing technology far superior to their own. Ryan called up from engineering with excitement in his voice. Captain, all weapon systems are operating at peak efficiency. We can maintain this rate of fire indefinitely. The Korthak fleet tried to return fire again, but their weapons seemed pitiful compared to human technology. Their plasma cannons required long cooling periods between shots, giving the Defiance plenty of time to maneuver between attacks. Lisa piloted the ship with incredible skill, dancing around enemy fire while keeping all weapons locked on target. Admiral Vextar watched in horror as his supposedly superior fleet was torn apart by a single human vessel. The ship he had planned to capture and study was systematically destroying his forces with weapons his scientists couldn't even understand. This was supposed to be an easy conquest, but instead it was turning into a massacre. Jake opened the communication channel again, his voice now carrying a clear warning. Admiral, you can see that your weapons are ineffective against our defenses. This demonstration represents only a small fraction of human military capability. I suggest you reconsider your hostile intentions. The alien commander's face showed a mixture of rage and desperation. You think one ship can defeat the mighty Korthak Empire? I have called for reinforcements. Soon you will face the full power of our fleet. Jake's smile grew wider. You're welcome to try, but I should warn you that we've also called for backup. In fact, they should be arriving right about now. Space around the battle suddenly filled with new energy signatures as 18 massive human warships dropped out of hyperspace. The Third Fleet had arrived, led by Admiral Hayes aboard the USS Retribution. Each ship was larger and more heavily armed than anything in the Korthak force. The alien fleet found itself completely surrounded by human vessels that made their own ships look like toys. Admiral Vextar realized that his entire understanding of human capabilities had been wrong. These weren't primitive colonists playing with simple technology. They were an advanced military force that had been hiding their strength from the beginning. Commander Zorath's voice shook with fear as he reported to his admiral. "Sir, we're detecting enough firepower to destroy our entire fleet 10 times over. These humans have been planning for this moment." Jake looked at the tactical display showing the complete human fleet in perfect formation around the trapped alien ships. "Welcome to Earth's real military, Admiral Vextar. I hope you're ready to learn some hard lessons about underestimating my species." Admiral Richard Hayes stood on the bridge of the USS Retribution as his massive fleet dropped out of hyperspace around the trapped Korthak forces. The sight before him confirmed every intelligence report the Defiance had transmitted. 12 alien warships surrounded Captain Morrison's vessel, but now they found themselves facing the full might of the Human Defense Force Third Fleet. The USS Retribution was a battleship that measured over 2 kilometers in length, its hull covered with weapon ports and shield generators that hummed with barely contained energy. Around it, 17 other human warships took defensive positions, each one representing decades of military engineering and combat experience gained from fighting in the border. War's Captain Alex Turner commanded the USS Vengeance from his position at the center of the fleet formation. The experimental dreadnought was the largest vessel humanity had ever built, massing more than 3 Korthak heavy cruisers combined. Its hull was black as space itself, covered with armor plating that could withstand direct hits from weapons the aliens had never imagined. Admiral Vextar stared at his tactical display in complete shock. The sensor readings showed energy signatures that were impossible, according to everything the Korthak Empire knew about human technology. Each of these new ships carried more firepower than his entire fleet combined, and their defensive systems were generating power levels that his sensors could barely measure. "This cannot be real," the alien commander whispered to his bridge crew. "Our intelligence reports showed that humans barely understand basic space travel. These ships are more advanced than anything in the Empire." Commander Zorath worked frantically at his station, trying to find some weakness in the human formation. "Admiral, their shield frequencies are completely unknown to our weapons. Our plasma cannons will have no effect against this level of technology." Admiral Hayes opened a communication channel to the Korthak fleet, his voice carrying the authority of someone who had commanded fleets in battles across the galaxy. "This is Admiral Hayes of the Human Defense Force. You are completely surrounded and outgunned. Surrender immediately or face the consequences." Captain Turner activated the USS Vengeance's main weapon systems, bringing online the experimental railguns that had been designed to fight enemies with superior numbers. The massive cannons emerged from hidden compartments along the ship's hull, each one capable of accelerating projectiles to significant fractions of light speed. The sight of these weapons emerging sent waves of panic through the Korthak fleet. The alien ships had never encountered kinetic weapons of this scale, and their sensors showed impact energies that would penetrate any known armor. Commander Zorath realized that a single shot from those railguns could destroy his entire ship. Jake Morrison watched from the Defiance as the human fleet took perfect formation around the enemy forces. Each captain knew their role in the battle plan, positioning their ships to create overlapping fields of fire that would prevent any alien vessel from escaping. This was the moment decades of military planning had prepared for. Kate Phillips coordinated communications between all 18 human ships, creating a tactical network that allowed instant sharing of targeting data and battle plans. The aliens had no idea that every human vessel was connected through quantum communication links that made their fleet act like a single massive weapon. Dr. Elena Rodriguez transmitted her analysis of Korthak technology to every ship in the fleet. Her detailed sensor readings showed exactly where to target each alien vessel for maximum effect. The human captains studied this information and prepared their weapons accordingly. Admiral Vextar tried to rally his forces for a desperate attack. "All ships concentrate fire on the largest human vessel. If we can destroy their flagship, we might still escape." The Korthak fleet opened fire with everything they had, sending volleys of plasma bolts toward the USS Vengeance. The bright energy beams struck the dreadnought's shields and dispersed harmlessly, causing no damage at all. The human ship's defensive systems were so advanced that the alien weapons might as well have been throwing rocks. Captain Turner decided it was time to demonstrate the true power of human military technology. "Fire main guns," he ordered calmly. The USS Vengeance's rail cannons discharged with tremendous energy, sending projectiles racing toward their targets at incredible speed. The first shot struck a Korthak destroyer and completely obliterated it in a massive explosion. The kinetic impact released more energy than a small nuclear weapon, sending shockwaves through space that damaged nearby alien ships. The remaining Korthak vessels scattered in panic as they realized their armor was useless against these weapons. Admiral Hayes coordinated the fleet's response, assigning targets to each human ship. All vessels commenced synchronized attack. Show them what happens when you threaten humanity. The entire Third Fleet opened fire at once, creating a devastating display of coordinated firepower. Energy beams, missile volleys, and railgun projectiles filled space as 18 human warships unleashed their weapons on the trapped alien force. The technological superiority was overwhelming. Lisa Burke aboard the Defiance joined the attack, adding her ship's quantum torpedoes to the barrage. The advanced weapons cut through Korthak shields like they weren't even there, striking hulls that had been designed to withstand conventional plasma weapons but offered no protection against human technology. 3 more alien ships were destroyed in the first minute of the coordinated attack. The survivors tried to retreat, but the human fleet had positioned itself to block every escape route. Admiral Vextar watched his forces being systematically dismantled by weapons his empire had no answer for. Commander Zorath's voice was filled with terror as he reported to his admiral. "Sir, we've lost 5 ships and the rest are taking heavy damage. Our weapons cannot penetrate their defenses, but their attacks are cutting through our armor like it's made of paper." Ryan Walsh monitored the battle from the Defiance's engineering section, amazed at how easily human technology was defeating the supposedly superior alien force. The Korthak had made the fatal mistake of judging humanity based on civilian colonies instead of military installations. Captain Turner prepared to fire the USS Vengeance's main guns again, but Admiral Hayes called for a ceasefire. The demonstration had achieved its purpose. The alien fleet was broken and helpless, completely at the mercy of human forces. Admiral Vexitar realized that his entire worldview had been shattered. The weak species he had planned to enslave possessed technology that made the Korthak Empire look primitive. His fleet faced complete annihilation unless he acted quickly. "Human Admiral," Vextar transmitted with defeat in his voice, "I request permission to discuss terms of surrender." Admiral Richard Hayes studied the tactical display showing the damaged Korthak fleet surrounded by his human warships. 5 alien vessels had been completely destroyed, and the remaining 7 were badly damaged with their weapons offline. Admiral Vextar's request for surrender terms had been transmitted just moments ago, ending what could have been a much longer and bloodier battle. Jake Morrison stood on the bridge of the USS Defiance, no longer pretending to be a simple research captain. His crew had performed perfectly during the deception, proving that human military training was superior to anything the aliens had encountered. The mission that started as routine exploration had become first contact with a hostile species, and humanity had passed the test with flying colors. Captain Alex Turner powered down the USS Vengeance's main weapons, but kept all defensive systems active. The experimental dreadnought had performed even better than expected, with its railguns proving devastatingly effective against alien armor. The ship would become the new standard for human fleet construction, designed specifically to fight unknown enemies with advanced technology. Admiral Hayes opened a communication channel to the Korthak flagship, his voice calm but firm. "Admiral Vextar, I accept your surrender on behalf of the Human Defense Force. Your remaining ships will power down all weapons and follow my fleet to Starbase 7 for formal negotiations." The alien commander appeared on screen, looking defeated and confused. His yellow eyes no longer showed the arrogance that had marked their first encounter. "Admiral Hayes, I must ask how this deception was possible. Our scouts observed your colonies for months and saw no sign of military capability." Jake Morrison stepped forward to answer the question. "Admiral, your scouts saw exactly what we wanted them to see. Every human colony and research station follows the same protocols. We appear weak and defenseless until the moment we choose to reveal our true strength." Dr. Elena Rodriguez had spent the last hour analyzing the complete technical specifications of Korthak technology. Her findings showed that while the alien ships were impressive, They relied on older engineering concepts that human scientists had moved beyond decades ago. The Empire had grown overconfident from conquering primitive species. Kate Phillips coordinated the surrender procedures, establishing communication links between human and alien ships to ensure the process went smoothly. Her quantum communication networks allowed instant coordination between all vessels, something the Korthak had never seen before. Their technology still relied on simple radio waves that could be intercepted or jammed. The 7 surviving alien ships followed Admiral Hayes' fleet toward the nearest human starbase, their crews still struggling to understand what had happened. Commander Zorath worked frantically to compile a report for the Korthak Empire. But how could he explain that their supposedly primitive enemies possessed technology that made the Empire's best weapons look like toys? Lisa Burke monitored the alien vessels throughout the journey, ready to respond if any of them tried to escape or call for reinforcements. Her tactical systems showed that the human fleet could destroy the remaining Korthak ships in minutes if necessary. But Admiral Hayes preferred to handle the situation through diplomacy when possible. Ryan Walsh supervised repairs to the USS Defiance, though the ship had taken minimal damage during the battle. The alien weapons had been unable to penetrate human shields, proving that the defensive systems worked as well as the offensive ones. The chief engineer was already planning upgrades based on what they had learned about Korthak technology. 3 days later, the combined fleet arrived at Starbase 7, a massive human military installation that had been hidden from alien observation. Admiral Vextar stared in amazement at the sight of hundreds of human warships docked at the station, each one more advanced than anything in his fleet. The formal surrender ceremony took place in the Starbase's main conference room. Admiral Hayes sat across from Admiral Vextar, while diplomats from both species worked out the details of a ceasefire agreement. The Korthak commander had been forced to admit that his empire had seriously underestimated human capabilities. Captain Turner presented the technical analysis of the battle to a room full of human military leaders. The USS Vengeance had proven that kinetic weapons were highly effective against alien defenses, while their energy shields could stop most forms of plasma-based attacks. This information would reshape human fleet design for decades to come. Jake Morrison received a promotion to Admiral for his role in the successful First Contact mission. The deception protocols he had followed perfectly would become the new standard for all human exploration vessels. Every ship would carry hidden weapons and advanced technology, while appearing to be harmless civilian craft. Dr. Elena Rodriguez began working with Korthak scientists to establish technology exchange programs. The aliens were fascinated by human engineering techniques, especially the miniaturization that allowed powerful weapons to be hidden inside seemingly simple equipment. In return, they shared their knowledge of plasma-based energy systems. The news of humanity's military strength spread quickly through the galactic community. Other alien civilizations that had been planning to invade human space suddenly changed their minds, realizing that the species they had dismissed as primitive possessed technology that could threaten even the most advanced empires. Admiral Vextar spent months at Starbase 7, studying human military doctrine and sharing intelligence about other species in the galaxy. He became fascinated by the human concept of hidden strength, admitting that the Korthak Empire had grown lazy from conquering weaker opponents for too long. Kate Phillips established permanent communication links between human space and the Korthak Empire, creating diplomatic channels that would prevent future misunderstandings. The quantum communication networks allowed instant contact across vast distances, something that impressed even the most advanced alien technologies. 6 months after the battle, Admiral Vextar signed a formal alliance treaty with humanity. The Korthak Empire agreed to share information about other alien species, while humans provided defensive technology to help protect Korthak worlds from more aggressive neighbors. The former enemies had become valuable allies. Captain Turner took command of the newly formed First Contact Fleet, a force of advanced warships designed specifically to handle encounters with unknown alien species. The USS Vengeance became the flagship of this fleet, ready to respond when other civilizations made the mistake of underestimating humanity. The galaxy had changed forever. Humanity emerged from the shadows as a major power that commanded respect through demonstrated capability rather than aggressive expansion. Other species learned that the quiet colonists from Earth possessed hidden depths that made them dangerous, enemies and valuable friends. Admiral Hayes often told other military leaders that the best victory was one where your enemy realized fighting was pointless before the battle truly began. The Korthak had learned this lesson the hard way, but they were fortunate enough to survive the experience and benefit from human friendship afterward. Years later, when other alien species asked Admiral Vextar about his encounter with humanity, he would always give the same warning: never assume that a species is weak just because they choose to appear peaceful. The humans had taught him that true strength often hides behind a mask of harmless simplicity.